Thanks very much for the opportunity to come along. You can, when you start a presentation like this, make assumptions about organisations because you live them all the time. It's worth me just dwelling upon for a few moments what ACARA does. The CA&R part in the middle there, the Curriculum Assessment Reporting Authority, so our responsibility has been to develop national curriculum, and that's where I'm going to focus most of my time here today. The basic proposition being we should as a nation be able to set expectations for what we want young people to learn in our schools for children wherever they are in the country, and the value proposition being that we should be able to do that better nationally than we can in the 8 states and territories. The A part of it, I often say it actually probably should be T instead of A, but again it's a vision I have about how we might change. We're responsible for the national testing program. NAPLAN's the most public and obvious one, but we're also responsible for sample assessment in areas like civics and citizenship education, ICT literacy and science on a 3-year rolling cycle. We have some connections into some of the international testing. And again, all of you would be, on a daily basis, we're looking at how we can use some of the data we've got and how we can connect it up better to improve some of the analysis of what we are doing with a view to improving it. The R part of it, again, the most public version of the R part of ACARA is the My School website, and the provision of that information out to the whole notion of being able to make data more available to people who have an interest and a commitment in education. Not that it's necessarily provided new information, but it's made it much more available. I think in the time that I've been CEO since 2012, I haven't done actually the frequency counts, but the quoting and referencing of some of the data, as people get into discussions around education and everything like that, that resource, the My School website resources, is increased in its use. So ACARA is responsible for those. I guess on reporting we're also responsible for the National Report on Schooling and a number of other reports that we do, and there's been numbers of organisations here, whereas an organisation like ours connected to Bureau of Stats and a whole range of people, and I guess just acknowledging even the introduction, I think it's fair to say, not that I can see now everybody that's here, but I know there's a number of people in the room who have contributed their time to the work of ACARA over the last few years. Before I get into the detail, the other thing that's worth noting is that, and I was trying to remind myself whether I feel under the caretaker provisions limited in what I'm saying or not. It's interesting to note about ACARA is we're one of only a few organisations that is set up under a federal act of parliament. So there's the ACARA Act that sets us up and sets out our roles and responsibilities. But part of that act also says that our governing body, ultimately the Education Council, there are 9 education ministers. So we have 9 education ministers. We work within the Federation. So a strength, absolutely. Sometimes a challenge working within the Federation, but it's a strength that's there. And interestingly then, from a funding point of view, the federal government funds half of our work, and then the states and territories proportionally the other half on a pro rata or population basis. So there's only a few organisations around like that, but it does make, my experience having worked in New South Wales and then also federally, the nature of the organisation actually, there's a lot of benefits, and the focus there, and I guess this is now where I'll go into my presentation, is the proposition is there, how can we do better working together than we can individually? It's an example of an organisation trying to say, can the Federation work without worrying about all the constitutional arrangements, who's responsible for what? So in my presentation here this morning, I do want to talk about, as I've tried to do, it's worth going back in order to go forward. I do want to talk about the developments over the last few years where we do have a national curriculum, and I will dwell on that. I could do a quick show of hands. Who's been to the Australian Curriculum website? Maybe in this last 6 months. Okay, so probably 2/3 of the people here. So I'm going to just dwell in it a little bit. I'll whiz through it, but it is my encouragement, especially as I hear either on TV or radio, people commenting about national curriculum, my oft desire, whether I'm shouting at the TV or going to talk to a reporter or something like that, is I'd rather the commentators actually read the curriculum before they start commenting about it. It's a big challenge to be informed about it, but it doesn't seem to worry some out there. Here it seems we've certainly got a majority of people who've done that. We've actually had a look at it. So let me go through, just make a couple of points. It is the case we have a national curriculum F to 10. I'm going to talk about that foundation. We couldn't settle on a letter that everyone agreed to. We've called it foundation the year before year 1. We've got a foundation to year 10 curriculum. It is being implemented around the country. We do have senior secondary curriculum that are at various states of implementation around the country. As a result of that, not that every child is necessarily learning it all there, but the expectation is that compared to what we had before, 8 sets of curriculum, if you like, there is now more statistics expected of young people that young people will be learned than we had previously. The curriculum there does involve a higher level of analysis and interpretation of information and data in the statistics and probability strand than was previously expected. The amount of statistics being learnt, if we see, having set the expectations, you'd like to think there is a consequential flow through. The amount of statistics being learned in Australia is comparable or higher than other countries internationally. And again, so the good news, statistics is currently part of each year level of the Australian curriculum, mathematics from foundation through to year 12. I think I can say confidently every student is being taught some statistics within the country. It is worth me acknowledging that the point that I made earlier on, that's as a consequence of the efforts of people here. There have been no end of arguments, and I do want to point at Nick here in particular. The energy that he's put into some of what's here. Now, Nick and I might have a conversation where he might say, but you didn't go far enough, Rob, we didn't get what we all wanted. But in a very healthy contest about the important area of education, I think we can say we're better off now than we had before. And the challenge, I guess this is, I'm starting here, but I'll also finish here. The challenge for us is to continue that very positive, productive discussion and challenge about education of young people in our schools. It absolutely is important for us all to continue in the healthy contest of it all. But I will call out Nick and I will acknowledge him. I haven't always thought positively about him as he was hassling me from time to time in my role, but I have actually, but every now and then you think, oh, come on, Nick. But again, I just want to acknowledge the efforts that him and other people are here who've been striving to improve what we want for young people around the country. So I've talked a little bit about F to 10 curriculum development. Over the period 2009 to 2012, we did develop the curriculum. If there's any students I actually am mathematics trained. I don't know how much mathematics I can remember now because it's a while ago, and there was statistics. But one of the things I have learnt in my role, in this role, and also in New South Wales, is actually I wished I'd studied more history. The value of actually going back, and so I'm going to just do a little bit of a historical reprise here a bit. If you wanted to go back, if you want to judge what we've done, if anyone wants to judge what we've done, it's worth going back to say, what did we set out to do? And there are documents on our website, things like the shape paper, the shape of the Australian curriculum. The one that we wrote about mathematics talked about young children, kindergarten to year 2, if I use a New South Wales term, or foundation to year 2, that we want them to develop an awareness of the collection, presentation and variation of data and a capacity to make predictions about chance events. That's something we set out, that we actually want young people being able to develop that capability, to have that understanding. We want children years 3 to 6 being able to describe relationships from data collected and represented to make predictions. In years 7 to 10, we want young people to be able to explore ways of working with data to allow a variety of representations, and make predictions about events based on their observations. So we set them out, as always, you have goals there. There's some of the high-level statements of what we set out to do. When we looked at the senior secondary course, there are 4 courses on our website, and I'll come back to the status of their implementation, but curriculum for 4 courses on our website. And again, across those 4 courses, not just statistics in one, statistics in all of them. The challenge that we noted at the time, and this is where I think the value of today's symposium and tomorrow's symposium is, we noted the challenge as we were developing the curriculum is, how do we make the mathematics curriculum accessible? We needed to focus on being able to emphasise the relevance of content to students. And some of the presentations here today, I guess, talk about ways that we're doing it. I want to acknowledge the work that the Office of the Chief Scientist and others are doing. Jali's presentation about making it relevant. But we talked about introduction of mathematical concepts and skills by drawing on practical situations and the purpose of study being made more obvious, and the mathematics then made more meaningful. So that's actually what I think, having got the curriculum, we're now in that space about how we actually achieve those things. If anyone has been to the website, I only did this test this morning, and I guess it's a matter of how you use data, whether it's reasonable or not. But I just thought, if I just tested, if you go to the website, you can actually test things like statistics. If you search for statistics in the Australian curriculum, it comes up 178 times. If you search inference, it comes up 98 times. If you search data, it comes up 556 times. Now, those numbers by themselves don't necessarily mean anything, because you've got to know what the denominator is. But it goes to my point earlier on of the increased frequency count of some of those things, the increased attention to it. But I think also they won't all come out of the maths curriculum. They'll also come out of the history curriculum, the geography curriculum, the science curriculum, and that's that other point here. It's not just in one area, it is across the curriculum. I'm going to whiz through some of this. So those of you who haven't seen the curriculum before, these are the 4 senior secondary curriculums. So I'm reinforcing here. F to 10, it's there. Have a look. Search the curriculum in ways that you want to. We published it online so anyone can go and look at it. You don't need to wait for the print version. These are some statements drawn from the left-hand side being the aims in the essential maths course, the right-hand side being some of the topics that are in there. And this presentation is available, so I'm not going to wait for everyone to read it all through. In the general mathematics course, these are, again, the aims and the content areas where we've got in that course that we want young people to study those. The methods course, similarly here. And again, for those who don't know, I guess we're going in increasing. There's a bit of a hierarchy here, if you see it in increased demand and the like. So we go through then finally to the specialist course. Now that's all very well. I mean, I'm standing up here and arguing there's the expectation, what we want young people to learn is better than what it was before. The test then is, but what's happening, Rob? Here's a little statement about where, from a senior secondary point of view, now I'm going to confidently say all of the F to 10 curriculum is being implemented in all the states and territories. Senior secondary course, that's not quite true. It's being at various states, well, the senior secondary curriculum from those 4 courses is at various states and territories. This is where the Federation does kick back in. When you get into senior secondary curriculum, and there are others here who are like us, care deeply about the state of implementation and the value we could realise if people were all picking this up. But when it comes to senior secondary, this is much more contested space, because that's where the certificates go and all the other things there. We're not a certifying authority, we're not a certification authority, we're just a curriculum authority, and you can read there what's happening. But again, the basic proposition is we actually have, broadly, from a national point of view, more in common than we did before. And if you like, as a follow-on from that, when it comes to statistics, probability and other areas, we've got more in the curriculum than we had before. I think it's fair to say that in terms of realising the translation from a national curriculum to state and territory curriculum in the senior secondary years, there's good news all the way round. The one place that I guess we're waiting to see the realisation of that is in New South Wales. So the proposition is there now. So then I get to, so is that all? Can we also say that's great? Actually, some states and territories do say that. Akara, you've done your job, move on, let us get back to our new normal. But setting the expectations isn't it. Just because it's there, just because it's in the curriculum, just because it's on the shelf, doesn't mean it's being realised. And again, I think that's part of the purpose of this, the meeting today and tomorrow, is how do we go further than that? There is an investment in the curriculum, there's investment in terms of dollars, people's time, people's aspirations. How do we make sure we get a return on that investment? I guess I'm going to make, there are 3 observations that I would make. The curriculum's there. It's not a matter of now just of leaving it. When ACARA was reviewed, we have a review under our Act. We were reviewed last year. The feedback from the reviewers, from the review process, was that what ACARA should do, noting it has testing and our priorities are moving to things like moving NAPLAN online, we should seek to have a period of curriculum stability, and the review said let's leave it for 5 or 6 years. Now that's an absolutely fine thing to be doing. Leave the curriculum, give the teachers a break, let them concentrate on the teaching of the curriculum rather than any sense of change. What we have got in train at the moment is a monitoring process. We're not just content to say we're happy with what's out there, what's being taught. We've got a monitoring process, and there's no better place than to be working with people who are actually delivering it, thinking about it, to get feedback about how it could be improved. So we're really keen to monitor the currency. Is it up to date? Now, I've heard numbers of times here today to say in this space, the statistics education part, as well as some areas, other areas of our curriculum like digital technologies and others, some would say 5 years is too long a time. You actually need to improve it and update it more frequently than that. But currency is one of them. Quality, does it stand up? Does it match? Now, there's a number of people here who've got international benchmarks. We should continue to subject our work to that. And effectiveness, does the curriculum actually help teachers make a difference? Now, so there's some tests that we're doing there. The second point is, though, and it goes more, and again I pick up on work that Ros doing, AAMT, AMC and a whole range of other bodies, it's a matter of the curriculum's there, teachers are getting on with it, they're absolutely well-intentioned. How do we make a difference? Now again, I think here's the value proposition. We shouldn't leave it to do it 8 times. We've got a national curriculum, the national effort working together, so do it once, do it well, and then promulgate that across the place. So improving the quality of teaching is there. Now, I think Ros called out, and I agree, AAMT very strongly and clearly of the view that assessment's the way to actually help make a difference. And again, that's the point. There's nothing like the assessment tail to focus one's mind, you know, if you like, with the curriculum dog. And that's this notion of saying, how can we, through assessment tasks, actually help focus on the nature of the learning that we want? How can we actually help teachers focus on the really important thing there? Now, that's actually where I think the most significant bit of work can be done, getting clear through good quality assessment tasks to help teachers focus, to help focus on the pedagogy, but also to help focus on the improvement. Now, the last one I'm going to say, because unfortunately I can't say for all the time, one of the things that people might say, and this is where Nick and I actually haven't talked about it so far today, might be later tonight that we talk some more. Some would say the other advance is to look at different course organisation. And again, all I'm going to do here is to say, some might sort of say, but the difference will ultimately be made when we get a statistics course in senior secondary maths or something like that. I think already today there's been some discussion about it's not one or the other, it's actually both, mathematical skills and statistical skills. So what I'm observing there is that notion of, do we in the Australian curriculum or in senior secondary want more specialisation? I think there actually is a whole bunch of data to say that pathway, whether it's in this area or in science or in other areas, trying to get increased specialisation in senior secondary curriculum is it's not going to get what you people want. There's enough data around to say, while that it might look good, we've got an opportunity for kids to learn. The reality in terms of being able to deliver it in schools, it just falls away. Barry McGaw did some great research in New South Wales in particular about 10 or 15 years ago, and the over-specialisation of courses meant, and it's not kids who choose, it's teachers who choose, and you actually get, you know, the courses don't get delivered to the kids you want. So my observation here today, in summary, is we do have a national curriculum. If you haven't had a chance to have a look at it, have a look at it. The proposition now is, how do we find ways to get a good return on the investment, time, effort, dollars, etc., so that we can improve the learning for kids where they are? And the national argument being, it's not just in the big states like New South Wales and Victoria that we can get it. The difference we make here makes a difference to kids in the territory, makes a difference to kids in Tasmania, makes a kids a difference all around the country. So I'm keen, and I thank Nick for the opportunity to come along here today, is to say, how do we continue this great discussion about what we want for young kids? How do we continue to turn it into a reality for kids in our schools today, and in the various speakers who've talked about the kids who will be in the workforce for the next half of this century? Thanks very much, and I'm happy to take some questions.